Welcome back to the channel. My name is Mike. I recently got a comment of someone asking me to make 15 cards under $15, and instead I'm going to make 100 cards under $15. I got a lot of cards to go through, so I'm just going to get started. I have this Coughing from Dream League. I like this. It's very purple, very cool. Next up, I have an old school Kingdra card. This is a nice OG vintage holo. Gotta love this. And if I mispronounce something in the comments, let me know. This is Keldeo. I think this is a beautiful card, and it's rather cheap. By the way, all these prices are based on TCG player, obviously. So this is Jolteon, the VMAX Climax Jolteon. I think this is a cool card. Next up, I got these Iron Thorns. Iron Thorn is pretty cool and pretty inexpensive if you get it from the Cyber Judge set. So yeah, the Japanese version is really inexpensive. We got this Houndoom looking very monochromatic, very badass. I enjoy this card. It's been talked about a lot recently. Next up, I got this Hoot Hoot art. I feel like this is very peaceful, very serene, and it's very cheap as well. This Hitmontop Holo is another vintage card. I'm a sucker for vintage. That's primarily what I collect, so I threw a couple of them on this list. This Gyarados GX is awesome. It's another Sunset card, and I'm a big fan, and it's surprisingly cheap, and this is actually from Crimson Invasion, so this is an English card. And this is another Gyarados. This is the OG Gyarados, the one to start it all. This is from the expansion pack. Well, maybe not the one to start it all. I'm not sure if there's one from the vending series, but definitely this is one of the first Gyarados artworks ever drawn, and it's beautiful. And this is basically the same artwork, but this is the 20th anniversary version. So, yep, I just want to throw both of them on this list. We have this Banned Grimer. I have this card. I actually have 2 copies of this card, and yeah, it's a funny card in my opinion. Let me know if you know why this card is banned. Great Tusk. This is a beautiful artwork. Kind of reminds me of like the Mad Max Dust Storm that they were driving into. Really cool. Love it. So yeah, just wanted to throw this on the list because I actually haven't seen this card or had seen people talk about it a lot, but yeah, good looking card. And I tried to throw in a little bit of variety, so I got some random things in here every once in a while. This is probably the most random thing on the list, but this is Gravity Mountain from Super Electric Breaker. It's just a gold card with a mountain, and I don't know, it's kind of peaceful, kind of different, and yeah. Next up, I have this Giovanni's Charisma. This is a nice card. I really like this artwork. I like the reds in the background. He looks very, very ominous, very sinister even. Next up, I have this Ghastly. This Ghastly has been popping off. People really been talking about this card recently, and although the artwork's not like my favorite, I think the concept is really cool. Like the whole horde of them walking through the streets at night and freaking out a Meowth in the corner. I think it looks dope overall, and it's got a moon in the background, so you know I'm a sucker for that. Next up, I have Fuecoco. This is just a cute little artwork of him in a shopping cart, chilling out, going shopping. So throwing that on the list. Next up, I have this Fletchinder. This is a beautiful card. I've talked about this previously, but shockingly cheap, and I love the warmth of this artwork. Fido. I actually didn't know about this Pokemon until someone left a nice comment guessing about a thumbnail I made, and yeah, it's a cute little doughy Pokemon, pretty funny name, and this is just an artwork of him looking in on his baked brethren. So yeah. Next up, we got this Entei V from V-Star Universe. I love this card. It's beautiful. It was originally my favorite card out of the trilogy, out of the set, but honestly, now I've been leaning towards the Suicune and the Raichu. Probably the Suicune's my favorite now, but they're all really cool, and this one is very cartoonish, has very thick lines. I told you I was throwing some variety on this list, so this is another one of the gold cards. This is Jet Black Spirit. That's the set it's from. This is an Electrode. I assume this is like an Alolan Electrode or something because it's blue, but yeah, either way, I don't know what's up. This is just a blue and gold Electron. Caught my eye, and these gold cards really just eye-catching, even though it seems like people don't really tend to like them that much. Next up, I have this Eevee and Snorlax GX from Tag Bolt. Honestly, I'm surprised that this card is as cheap as it is. I would have just assumed that it was more with how much Eevee hype there is and how much, how popular Snorlax is, but I really like this card. I might pick one of these up for the collection eventually, but either way, I thought it was really cool, so throwing it on the list. Next up, I have this Dragonair. This Dragonair is one of the nicest artworks, in my opinion. A Dragonair, Pokebeard said something like that, and I'm inclined to agree with him. The colors, the ripple in the water, it just looks beautiful, and this is another vintage card, and it's pretty cheap. Now, this is a damaged copy, but yeah, pretty cheap. This is a holographic vintage card. This is a Japanese fossil card. I love this card. I actually just recently picked one up for the collection. I'm working on finishing the original series. Then I might jump to the vending series or to the Topps cards. But I'm kind of collecting the stuff from my childhood. So yeah, picked up one of these in pretty good condition, and it was not that expensive. Next up, I have this Dead End, this VMAX Climax. Good looking card, pretty cartoonish, pretty poppin', pretty cutesy artwork. I feel like this is a colorful card that might not be my first choice, but like I said, I wanted to throw out some variety there, and it's not like it's an ugly card. Like, I'm not trying to say it's a bad card or anything. It's just, it's very cute, and I tend to like my Pokemon a little more sinister, but there's a handful of cute cards I like as well, so this is one that I thought was worth throwing on the list. This Dark Slowking is another vintage card. This is a wild looking artwork, one of the craziest artworks on this list. It almost looks like chalk on like a driveway or something. I don't know, it's got this very unique style, and yeah, wanted to throw it on the list because it's crazy looking, it's a Slowking, and it's vintage, and it's a dark Pokemon, so I do like this card. But a card that I like just a little bit more would be this Dark Slowbro from Rocket Gang. I like this card a lot. I have an English version, I think, and a Japanese version. I might have sold the English version, or I might still have it, but that one's from my childhood, and then I bought a Japanese one for the collection as of late. So yeah, cool card, dope Pokemon. Got a little Team Rocket guy back there, but I like this card a lot, and it is well below $15. Next up, I have this Dark Jolteon. I like this card. It's a good looking card. It's one of my favorite OG artworks. The yellow really pops off the purple. It's a good color theory, and I just love Jolteon. So I'm a fan of this card, and it's relatively inexpensive, so I'm throwing it on the list. Dark Hypno, again, another Rocket Gang. I love the Dark Pokemon. I love this set. It's my first set that I've ever completed. I'm waiting on my last card for the set, and it's the Here Comes Team Rocket card, ironically, but that should be here, and then that is going to be the first Pokemon set that I've ever completed in my entire life since my childhood, so very excited for that. But yeah, Rocket Gang, it's just another Rocket Gang card. It's a holo, it's a psychic Pokemon, it's a Hypno. Hypno I do like. I do think it's one of the underrated Pokemon, but yeah, man, Hypno, I like this card a lot. Love the eyes in the background and all that stuff. It looks great. Except I got this Dark Gyarados. This is a great looking card. Love this card. Absolutely beautiful. Again, Rocket Gang, great set. Next up, I got this Dark Golbat, another beautiful card from Rocket Gang. It's another super inexpensive card, and I love vintage, so threw it on here. Dark Flareon, you're starting to get the habit now. We're starting to see a lot of dark Pokemon in here, but yeah, moving on to some more modern stuff. We have this right here, this Cyclizar. This is a card from Raging Surf. Decent looking card. It's honestly not my favorite, but I feel like art is so subjective that I feel like people that really like this Pokemon might really love this card, and just the fact that I'm not as familiar with the Pokemon, you know, maybe I just don't enjoy it as much. But I do think it's comical. It's got that real world vibe where Pokemon are doing real life things, and yeah, wanted to throw it on the list. Comfey, this is a very cheap card because the artwork might not be for everybody, but I do think it is a very pretty floral, calm, tranquil card. It gives off a very peaceful vibe, and it's one of those cards where upon first glance you might not notice exactly the Pokemon, and you might have to look a little closer, but yeah, the green does a good job of popping it off, but I do think that it does look similar to a flower, so it blends in well enough while also standing out, and yeah, it's just an interesting looking card from V-Star Universe. Next up, I have a Detective Pikachu Charizard. This Charizard looks weird. It looks very weird. It looks real life. The Detective Pikachu movie, the Pokemon in that look so weird, like especially Mr. Mime, just absolutely uncanny valley, but the Charizard arguably looked like one of the cooler Pokemon in the movie, in my opinion, so I wanted to throw this card on the list because, again, I want to throw out some variety. Art is extremely subjective, and yeah, Detective Pikachu, this is a card from the movie. Another Charizard is this Charizard Trainer Gallery card. People don't really seem to like this card. It's not really a card as far as Charizard cards go that is blown up in price, but I do think that it is a nice artwork, and if you're a fan of this trainer, you might really appreciate this. And then we got this Chansey from Transformation Mask, another Japanese card. I really see a lot of people talk about this card, and I understand why. You know, it's a cute little card. It's got that kind of Pokemon Center, it looks like, vibe, and there's a lot of different Pokemon in it. So yeah, it's a good looking card. It's a cartoonish, very cartoonish, but I like it, and yeah, that is Chansey. And again, if I mispronounce anything, please yell at me in the comments, as I'm sure some of you will. Some of you are, oh man, there's a lot of people that are really sweet, really nice, just want to have a conversation. There's a lot of people that are like gatekeeping and are annoyed that I'm making this content. But Monkey Dory, very, very cool looking card. I love these cherry blossoms. Just an absolutely beautiful looking card, and cheaper than I would have thought. Next up, I got this Morpeko. I feel like this really stands out. This is from Ancient Roar. It's a cool looking card. It's got this Candyland flavor, this vibe, and I really like it. Next up, we have this Tag Team Moltres card, Moltres, Zapdos, and Articuno. I love this card. It's one of my favorite modern artworks. I just love the fact that we get all three birds. They look so sinister. They're puzzled together in such a pleasing way. It's well balanced, and it just looks absolutely dope. I have one of these cards, and it's for the collection. I'm not going to sell it, and I might pick up a couple more. I don't know. Investing in singles is extremely speculative, and I try not to do it. But recently, I have been picking up a couple singles, just for fun. Things that I think are undervalued. And this card for $8 on a set that keeps getting older. I don't know. Maybe it's worth it if you can find it for around $8-9. But yeah, that is a tag team card that is just absolutely one of my favorites of all time. Next up, I have this Moltres from Fossil. I gotta pick up a copy of these. I'm so close to completing my Japanese Fossil set, and I gotta find a good copy of these. And they're not that expensive. Honestly, you can find like an okay copy for like $15 or so. But if you want to find like a nice one, it's probably going to cost you close to like 30. But this card you can find for like, you know, 11, 12, 13, 14, $15, and it would be like lightly played. So yeah, throwing this on the list because it's a legendary bird, vintage holographic, for like $15, dude. Next up, I got this Minior. This is from Raging Surf. This is a good looking card in my opinion. I love the color contrast. It really pops off the dark background, and it's a unique art style that's very colorful. We got some starfall action going on, some shooting stars. It just looks nice. It's a visually pleasing card, so it's on the list. Next up, one of my favorite cards on this whole list, and this price is shot up. Near mint holofoil 20. Damn, when I set this up, it was, there we go, market price. Okay, market price is like, it's like $14.05, so that's not too bad. Yeah, this is one of my favorite cards on the list. Mimikyu V. I'm watching a horror movie. The trainer's just shocked in the background. The shadow on the wall. I love it. I think it's awesome. I got another Mimikyu. This is from Shiny Treasure EX. This is a cool looking card. People have mixed feelings. I've seen people say that they don't really like when there's photorealistic people with Pokemon, and I don't know. I kind of have mixed feelings on that. Personally, it doesn't bother me on this card because there's not a super amount of detail in the face. It's a little blurry, and the light coming in the window, it's just got a peaceful, tranquil vibe. So overall, I do like this card, and for around $5, I don't think you can go wrong. Next up, I got this Mewtwo and Mew GX from Miracle Twin. I got one of these. I used to have a couple more because I cracked a couple of these boxes back in the day. But yeah, really like this card. Love this, these Pokemon. Who doesn't love these Pokemon? So yeah, another tag team card for the list. I've talked about this card. I got a couple copies. I don't have too many copies, but this card keeps slowly creeping in price. It's breaking that 15 mark at this point. Down here, you can still get it for around like $13 online. I've seen eBay listings, but this card, this Mew from Beastar Universe, talked about it a lot. Honestly, talk about this card, one of the most talked about cards on the channel, and yeah, a lot of Pokemon in here. Good looking card, good looking Mew card, and it's like $12. More vintage, baby. Meganium, that's what I'm talking about. We got this beautiful little flower mane. I think this is cool. This is one of the Pokemon, like I hopped off around Gen 2, Gen 3, so this is one of the more newer Pokemon that I actually remember from childhood. Like, I have a little bit of nostalgia for it, and that being said, this card looks awesome. It looks beautiful. The Pokemon looks dope. And yeah, I just love vintage cards, man. Something about the vintage holographics. The new holos, they look like cheaper. I don't know what it is, if it's just my nostalgia or what, but I feel like the new holo is just, it's just like this sheen that they put over the whole thing, and like it's got like a cheap sparkle, whereas here I feel like I don't know what it is. It must just be nostalgia. I don't know if I could properly explain it, but something about the vintage holofoils, they just hit for me different. Anyway, if I'm not, I'm going to keep moving on. Here we go. This is a Meryl card. People have been talking about this card. I think it's a good looking Meryl artwork. Nice center framing. It's a lot of blue, but somehow I feel like the use of the shadows and the light does a good job of making the Meryl pop off the background, when with the amount of blue in this, you think maybe it could get a little more lost than it actually is. But yeah, good looking card. And next up, speaking of Eiffel 65, we have this Mantike. This is a cute card from Raging Surf. It's ironic that this card is from Raging Surf. I really like this card. It reminds me, unfortunately, of a tragedy now, but I will say that this is a cool card, and it's adorable if you don't think about the blood-curdling tragedy that befell a couple of people. My morbid jokes aren't the only thing with shock value. Look at this Magneton. This is another vintage holo. Gotta love it. Bada bing, bada boom. Fettuccine. Another Magneton card that's worth talking about is this beautiful card. I love this art style. The dude or lady who that is doing these artworks, they're just absolutely crushing it. The Magikarp look beautiful. This one looks beautiful. I'm a fan. 10 out of 10. Great job. And relatively inexpensive if you want to get the Super Electric Breaker version. I have this Magnemite from Dream League. I actually just recently got a copy of these because I just like this card. I really like it. It's basically like a Lieutenant Surge card for me, and I'm working on collecting the gym heroes and gym challenge and all that stuff. So, or I should say Leader Stadium and Challenge from the Darkness, because I'm doing the Japanese versions. But I got this because I kind of want to add my own trainer cards to the back of the binder, and I think that this is a great looking card. Next up, I have this Machamp V. Now, this is another variety card. This is a card that probably isn't going to be as popular as the others, but I really like the artwork. I think it looks dope. I was reaching towards the camera. We have that motion blur. It's on a Pokemon that I'm a fan of, and it is super cheap. Next up, I got this Lumineon V. This is a cool looking card, another super unique, interesting artwork. Kind of reminds me of that Starfall card that I was looking at before, and gotta be honest, it might be the same artist because it looks like a very similar style. Not sure, but Lumineon V, cool looking card. Next up, I got this Lugia V from Paradigm Trigger. I bought a couple of these boxes because I think they're going to go up long term, but let's not talk about investments. Let's just talk about cool artworks. Look at this Stormy Lugia, this aggressive looking face. It looks like he's on Deadliest Catch or something. Like, I get these just harsh sea vibes, and I just think it looks absolutely badass. I do wish it was a little further back. Like, I do wish you could see a little more of like a raging swell like around the Pokemon. You could see a little more of the Stormy Sea, or maybe some more wings, but you know, overall it is a decent looking card, and it is pretty inexpensive as far as the Lugia artworks go in this set. Next up, I got this Lucario. This card, I always see this card and it punches me in the face. It's like those YouTube thumbnails from like Turkey Tom where it's just a big face, and it's very striking. It's not like the most impressive artwork, but it is one of those artworks that every time you scroll through TCG Player, this card makes you like notice it. It makes you notice it. It stands out because it's such a unique design. You don't see cards up close this often. You have that one Weasel card that came out recently in one of the newer sets, but yeah, this card just really attention grabbing. Speaking of attention grabbing, this Loudred, super cheap card, and it just, the colors and the artwork and the big lines, the thick lines, it's just really super duper eye catching, and another one that just pops off the page every time I see it. Next up, I have a Lily's Clefairy EX from Battle Partners. This is a trainer card. I really like how they're adding the little trainer pictures to the cards. I think this is a good looking artwork, and I'm very excited to see what the rest of the cards look like. I mean, I know that the set is available to look at, but I guess not so much this one. Truthfully, I don't really care about these trainers. I want like the OG trainers because I'm just trying to drown my self in nostalgia. So I was hoping to see some more like Surge, Brock, Sabrina would have been dope, Blaine, but instead it's a bunch of new people that I'm not really familiar with because I jumped out of the scene and am just getting back into it over the last like 3 years on and off. So yeah, it's I'm excited to see what they do with the little trainer photos, because those are some of my favorite sets, was the OG gym set. So yeah, I really love that they're bringing it back. I just wish it was, you know, stuff that I could relate to more, but that's my own fault for not really, you know, watching the show and all that stuff. So I should start watching the show so I can really enjoy this a little bit more. But yeah, I'll stop rambling. Lily's Clefairy EX from Battle Partners. I think it looks cool, and I'm excited to see where they go from here. Now, I always say that I like dark Pokemon, but I can also respect some of these light Pokemon cards. I think some of them are kind of cute and funny, and this one, this light Machoke, how he's looking at a flower. He's just this massive jack dude looking at a flower. I just think it's kind of funny to me. I don't know why, and it's relatively inexpensive. This light Machamp is another light card. They have a very similar art style. It's got that like cartoonish look to it, and it's just another light card, another vintage card. And I want to throw some variety on here. So you're getting everything. You're getting modern, you're getting trainers, you're getting the mountain card, you're getting gold cards, you're getting vintage light cards, vintage dark cards, you're getting everything. And last up for light Pokemon, I have this light Jolteon. This is arguably my favorite out of the three. I just like how he's kind of nestled up at night, you know, with Rattata and Togepi. It's a cool looking card, OG vintage card, and Jolteon is, was my favorite evolution and possibly still is. Next up, I have this Latios card from Paradise Dragona. This is another set I have a couple boxes of. I like this card. I think it's a good looking card, and I'm just a huge sucker for the Sunset and Sunrise cards, so this is definitely on the list. Next up, I have this Latias card from V-Star Universe, another dirt cheap card. All the cards on this list are super inexpensive, but I was surprised. This is one of those cards that when I saw it, you're like, oh, okay, what's the price? You can look over and you'd think it would be a higher number, and this is one of those cards. It's not the craziest, not the coolest, not my favorite Pokemon, but it's just peaceful. It's a nice Pokemon. It's flying through the city. It's got that real world aspect. It's I don't know. It's just a nice looking card, and for some reason I really vibe with it. Next up, I have this Lapras V. I absolutely love the Sunflare coming through here. This is a V card that I think looks really good, and V cards tend to be on the cheaper side normally, and this is no exception. And arguably one of my favorite Lapras cards of all time is this V-Star Universe card. Super inexpensive. The price seems to have bumped up a tiny bit, but really maybe it's only like a couple cents. That being said, beautiful card, a lot of different Pokemon in here, in the water, in the sky, and I've talked about this card in a couple videos, so I'll just leave it at that. Next up, I have this Wordeer. It's a battle region card. It's a cheap card, and it's got a nice trainer in there, so this artwork just really stood out to me. This Wo-Chien EX is a pretty good looking card. I like all the greens. It's soft, it's warm, it's got just this tranquil vibe of being in the forest, and I really like this card from Snow Hazard. Next up, I have this Venomoth GX. There's a moon in the background, so of course you know I love this card, but it's really inexpensive, and it is a close-up of a nice Gen 1 Pokemon. Next up, I have this Vaporeon from VMAX Climax. This is a good looking card, one of 3 I think, or 4 in this set. They have a couple in this set and they all go together, and I gotta say I think the Vaporeon's probably my favorite out of these 4 cards. Umbreon GX, everybody loves Umbreon, so I want to throw a couple Umbreons on here, but yeah, Umbreon GX, very colorful card. I love all the purples in here, and it just really pops off the page. Oh, I lied. That's the only Umbreon. I thought I had another one on here. I guess I don't. But Tyranitar, this is an inexpensive card. You can find this right now on eBay for like $5.50 with free shipping. Maybe even cheaper. Maybe a little more expensive, give or take. But sellers are selling this for like $5.50. I actually picked up a couple of these because I want to invest in them. Investing in singles is sketchy and speculative, but I just like this card, and it's another card that I saw, and I was surprised how cheap it is now, and I see other people talking about it, so I picked up a couple copies, and it's a good looking card from Clayburst. Next up, I have this Teal Mask Ogerpon. It's a good looking card. I like the warmth of it, and I don't know, artwork just stuck with me. Next up, I have this Sylveon Forbidden Light. It's just another card with a moon in it. It looks cool. I like it, and it is relatively inexpensive. Hard to find a copy right now because don't see any listings here, but yeah, relatively cheap, and it's got a moon in the background and an evolution. This new Wailord card from Battle Partners is really beautiful. I love the artwork, love the colors, I love the sense of scale with him just poking his face out, and the fact that we have a ship back there. It's another sunset card. It's just an absolutely beautiful card, and it is sitting around 15. Next up, I have this Steelix. This is another vintage holo. Gotta love it. Snorlax, one of my favorite Pokemon, this big chunky boy, something about him, I just appreciate his big fat laziness. I don't know what it is, but super inexpensive card from Dark Phantasma. Smeargle, I've talked about this card in the past, but again, the wide angle, the fact that you focus on him, and then we have the Fibonacci sequence's golden spiral that brings you down around his tail to this trainer that's dressed like Where's Waldo, and then it goes up to this distracting background. It all just works together rather well, and I remember Smeargle from before I left the hobby. Next up, I have this Slowpoke and Psyduck GX. This is from Miracle Twin. I actually own a copy of this because I cracked a couple boxes back in the day. Probably already said that, but yeah, really love Miracle Twin. I think that was such a dope set. One of my favorite Japanese sets of all time, and yeah, Miracle Twin, gotta love it. Next up, I have this Squovet. It's a very soft card, very peaceful looking card. Really enjoy just the warmth of it, and I wanted to throw some variety stuff on the list, so it's not all angry, jacked Pokemon. It's also, you know, soft ones, just taking a nap on a warm day. Next up, I have this Caesar, this holographic vintage card. I love the aggression, just the fact that he's like chasing you. It's like he's coming at the camera. Really like this card, good looking card, and the red just really makes him pop off the background. I got another Caesar card. This is a red card that doesn't pop that well, and honestly, I don't think that it really plays too well, and that's probably why it's rather inexpensive. But as far as the actual like posing and the look of Caesar, I like how close Caesar is to the camera. I like his posing. I like his look. Everything I like about it. I just wish that the background wasn't as red. I wish it was something that was a little easier to see, because you really have to stop and look at this, and even when you do, it doesn't really hit me the way I wish it did. Even though I can acknowledge that the all red kind of has this like rising sun samurai type look, but I don't know, I just feel like the Caesar gets a little lost. Next up, I got this Sandile. I think this is a funny card, cute card. I like it. Sandile's kind of hidden in the sand there. It looks good. And yeah, this is another very inexpensive Japanese card. This card kind of reminds me of the Loudred in just the fact that it just has that color punch. I don't know what it is. There's a lot of reds and it does kind of blend together, but the line work and the motion and some of the other colors that pop, like the purples and pinks and the yellows and the greens, it does do a good job. Although there is a lot of red, it does a good job of popping out. And I don't know, I just thought that this was a very unique looking card, so throwing this on the list. This is from Ruler of the Black Flame. Next up, and this is where my pronunciation might take a hit, I have Reuniclus, and this is a good looking card. Really like the sparkles, the sun hitting the water. You can see the color of the sand beneath the water. It just really looks good. It really looks good, and there is a little bit of depth of field we get, and I feel like it just does a good job of popping. It's just something about the artwork just looks super clean. Next up, I have this Raichu V. This is a beautiful card, one of my favorites probably. I would say it's honestly this has been climbing up there slowly, but the Suicune's my favorite, and this is I think my second favorite now. It might be higher than the Entei. Next up, I got another vintage holo. This is the OG Raichu, and when I say OG, I mean this is the 20th anniversary Raichu, but still great artwork, OG artwork. Looks like that vintage holo style, so I love that. And a more modern Raichu, we have this Raichu from Clayburst. This is a card where he's just sleeping. He's just about to get woken up as the sun comes and creeps in a little further onto his face. But yeah, it's a good looking card, and people seem to be talking about this card. It's not a card that I would have thought would have been talked about as much as it is, but yeah, people seem to talk about this card. I see this in a couple videos here and there. So this is the Raichu from Clayburst. We got a Psyduck from 151. I like this artwork. It's not bad. It's not my favorite. I do think that like it's a little, you know, he's so small and the line work isn't very like bold, so he is soft and tiny in the frame, but when you take the time to look at what's going on, aside from him having a headache, it does give me that peaceful vibe. Like just this scenic staircase just seems like such a vibe. Next up, I have this Porygon Z, who looks like he's just a Twitch streamer. We got these RGB keyboard lights and the neon lights in the background, all these posters and the guitar and the speakers. It just looks like this is speaking to the gamer. The only thing that the gamer in me doesn't like about this is how much daylight I can see. That's way too much for a gamer such as myself, but either way, I do really like this card. Next up, I have Pikachu VMAX from VMAX Climax. This is another card that when I saw it, I was shocked at how cheap it was. I just would have assumed that it was more, but if you like big chunky Pikachu, then this is a cheap way to get one. Next up, I got this Pikachu promo card. This is another just really bright, colorful card with Pikachu dead center, frolicking with a bunch of different Pokemon. And I feel like if you like super cutesy, bright artwork, it would be very hard for you to not like this card. We got all these Pokemon, we got the flowers. It's just a peaceful, nice looking card. Next up, I got this Pikachu taking a nap with the trainer. He's got his foot propped up on her face. It's kind of cute card, good looking card, and this is from Dark Phantasma. Next up, I got this Pikachu promo card. I've talked about this in another video. I would argue that I like this card more than the other one, even though the other one had flowers and a little more of a field. I really just like, I mean, we get a little bit of flower down here, but they're all yellow. I wish they were red or something, but either way, we get Pikachu and this big blue sky, which I think really blends well. We get the sun flare. So out of the two promo cards for Pikachu, I think this is my favorite, but yeah, both are good looking cards. Next up, I have this Pidgey, one of the most unique artworks that I have seen. This is from Ruler of the Black Flame, and I believe that this comes in a set. I think there's 3 cards with a similar art style. Next up, I have this Persian looking over the night city, just checking out the nightlife like a house cat. Very comical and chill, and I like the fact that it looks like the sun just recently went down, so it's a good looking card. And this is another card that people have been talking about a little bit more lately. Next up, I have this Perrin card. This is a waifu card. I really like the fact that she has a camera. The other card is dope too, where you can see the reflection of the Pokemon in the lens, but yeah, this Perrin card is much cheaper, so here it is. Next up, I have this Paris from V-Star Universe. Cool looking card, very gentle looking card. I think the red does a good job of popping it off of the green background, and it is just one of those soft, gentle artworks. Next up, I have a Paldean Tauros. I've talked about this card a couple times in a couple different videos, but this card is really good looking. The design, the red and black go well together. The fact that we have the highlights on the back of all the Tauruses because they're backlit by the sun, the fact that the sun brings your attention to the Taurus being the brightest part of the image, the fact that we get these flares, this sun flare that act as leading lines on this Dutch angle. We have some Taurus silhouettes in the background in what looks like an African plain or something. We have this beautiful kind of Lion King-esque tree in the background. I just think it looks great. It looks dope. Huge fan, and it is dirt cheap. This card right here, Octillery, I don't really know this Pokemon too well, but this card, just really like the color theory here. The Pokemon absolutely shoots off the background, pops completely off the background, and the fact that we have a trainer in yellow, I think that does a good job of popping up the background too, so I think it looks great. And last but certainly not least, we have this Noibat artwork. This is from Battle Partners. I think it's a great looking card. The fact that they're in the cave and this color scheme, it almost, I don't know why the color scheme almost reminds me of like an Aurora Borealis. It just has this like waving, blending, beautiful greens and blues. It looks great. I love it. And yeah, this Noibat card has been the last card out of, I think, 100 recommendations. I'm pretty sure it's 100. If you count and I was wrong, please leave in the comments. Be like, hey, idiot, it was actually 99. But yeah, that is it for the video. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate you making it this far. Let me know what cards I missed or what cards on this list you think are a steal for the price. And yeah, click like, click subscribe, all that stupid silly stuff. If you want to know what kind of equipment I use, I have Amazon affiliate links in the description below. But yeah, that is it. Thank you for watching.